So today's class is on the idea of the idea of water. Is water a curse? Is it a blessing? What is water? So before I start, we will our first um, just going to mute though everyone so that we don't have static in the middle. Okay, so before we start, I'll start with the line of the Baal Shem Tov. The great Rabbi the Baal Shem Tov lived about 300 years ago. He would say, or it said from about him, that when one sees water, one should say, then the name of the Baal Shem Tov, that water is a sign of blessing. So in general, we need to we have to realize that water is a sign of blessing. Obviously, we say that water is blessing, but there are cases where we find water to not be a blessing, and we'll go through some of those cases and then come through back to the understanding the blessing of water. So firstly, this week's Torah portion is Parshat Noach, is the parsha of Noah, where God tells Noah to build an ark because he's going to destroy the world with water. He's going to destroy the world with a flood. And Noah built the ark, and even after he had built the ark, he still wasn't so trusting that God had to actually tell him to actually enter the ark and actually go, and he had to show that it started raining before he actually entered the ark, according to the Medrash. And but he did go into the ark, and Noah and his family were saved, and the rest of the human race perished. The rest of the human race perished due to the flood. Now, you go fast forward about 800 years when the Jewish people were in Egypt. Pharaoh decides, how am I going to destroy the Jewish people? We're going to throw the Jewish children into the river. We're going to drown the Jewish children, and this was his way of getting at them. He actually says in the Medrash explains on this that the Egyptians remembered that God had told Noah by the flood that there won't be any more floods that will destroy the world. So they said, if God causes this destruction, if God causes if God's not going to destroy us by a flood, so therefore we're not going to get punished by water. So therefore they threw the children, the baby boys, into the river. And they killed them by the river, and obviously they got punished in the end with water by the Yam Suf, by the Sea of Reeds, where they actually perished when God split the sea, and the Jewish people were able to come through on dry land. Just going through a few other cases where Hashem destroyed different groups through water. You have when the story of Sisera. Sisera was a general who was attacking the Jewish people in the days of Deborah, and the prophetess, and Deborah sent Barak with his army and to chase after them. And at the time, God made it really, really hot, and the soldiers in Sisera's army went to go into the water to cool down, and the waters took them, and his whole entire army drowned. At which point he ran off, and there was a woman named Jael who invited him into the tent, and then she got him gave him to drink and cheese, and got him sleepy, and killed Sisera, and killed Sisera. Going forward in history to the destruction of the Second Temple, it says about Titus that on his way back from destroying the temple, there was a big storm out at sea. And Titus said, I see, God, you're successful only at the sea. That you destroyed the people in the days of the flood via water. You destroyed the Egyptians via water. You destroyed Sisera's army via water. So so therefore, God decided that instead of having him destroyed by water, he will come and he will survive. He will survive the storm, and he'll come to Rome, and then the smallest of creatures, the gnat, will come into his brain and will pretty much eat his brain out, which is how he got his punishment in the end. That is a story for another time. But the idea is that he looked at it and said, look, the way that God punishes different groups is all through water. We also see similarly by the story of Jonah, where he tried to run away from God when God told Jonah to go out to he told him to go to the city of Nineveh to tell them to repent for their bad ways. And again, he went and he tried he got a boat to take him to Tarshish. On the way to Tarshish, there was a major storm, and they drew lots, and they realized that it was on Jonah who it fell on, and Jonah said that I'm the one who's responsible, and they threw him overboard, where he was swallowed by a fish, and it took him 3 days to ask God for forgiveness, and then he was spat out near Nineveh. I'm shortening the story, obviously, because it's the class today is on the story of Jonah. But you see again where water was used as a manner of destruction, and we know that over the years, many people have had calamities of water. Yet, as we said at the very beginning of this class, that the Baal Shem Tov says that when one sees water, one should say in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, that when one sees water, it's a sign of blessing. So now that we see that this is used in a thing, we have to understand the whole concept of water. So to understand it, I want to go into the idea of in the Jewish calendar, we have a very strong emphasis on the rain season. Why? Firstly, there's a difference between the way it was in Egypt versus the way it was in Israel. In the land of Egypt, it doesn't usually rain. They get their water from the Nile. Every year, the Nile Delta rises and it floods the plains, and that's where it nourishes all the land and gives what's in the vegetation to be able to grow, because the river rises, and that's how they get their sustenance. While in Israel, the sustenance comes from the rain. The way things grew in Israel was based on the rain. That way people would always look up. Where does rain come from? From above. So therefore, in Egypt, people were focused downwards because that's how the river would come up. While in Israel, people would focus upwards because they would want the rain to be able to give them food, to be able to give food and sustenance to the people, to be able to grow and not have famine. And obviously, because of that, we have specific times, specific parts of our prayers which are associated with rain. So firstly, it says that the day of judgment for water is on Sukkot. Sukkot being the festival of joy, that is when the world gets its sustenance for gets its judgment for how much water there should be, and therefore it actually says that when Mashiach comes and during the Messianic era, even the non-Jews will keep Sukkot. Why? Because the non-Jews need water just as much as the Jewish people. So too, that is also why on Sukkot we have the sacrifices for each of the nations of the world, because it connects everyone with this concept of water. Also, there was a custom in the days of the Beit HaMikdash to do what was known as the drawing of the water, where they would draw water. This was one of the greatest celebrations of the year. It says in the Talmud that someone who did not see the simcha, the happiness at the of Beis HaShoeva, someone who did not see someone who did not see the simcha of Beis HaShoeva did not see happiness in their life. So it shows the idea that the water is a very, very strong sign of blessing, a very strong sign of good. This is what created that happiness, the greatest happiness. So on Sukkot, on Shmini Atzeret, on the 7th day, on the 8th day, we have actually what's known as Tfilat Geshem, the prayer for rain. We start praying for rain because this is when the rain this is when the rain season begins, and therefore it is a strong blessing. As we go through, we actually don't start praying for rain until Zayin Cheshvan, which is the this coming Sunday, which is 13 days after the holiday is over, so that anybody who had come to Jerusalem should be able to have come back home to the furthest place in Israel without having to be stuck with the rain. Outside of Israel, the prayers are done a little bit different, and it was instituted when the majority of the Jewish people lived in the land of Babylon, which is today Iraq. So the prayers are based on when Iraq needs rain, which is 60 days after the equinox. Although in this area, we follow a opinion that's not exact, and therefore it gets a little bit further off. So it's a few more days off from the actual equinox. But we actually do it on the 4th of December is the date that we change over from where we don't pray for rain to the time when we do pray for rain, based on when Iraq needs rain. This is the only time that you have a secular date mentioned in the Shulchan Aruch, in the Code of Jewish Law, being that it's based on the secular date. So every year on the 4th of December is when we do the prayer for rain. Now, if rain doesn't start coming by the middle of Cheshvan, which is the Jewish month of Cheshvan, which is the month that we just began, we start to do what's known as, there was fast days that were put in place, which was because of how important it is that if there was no rain, there wouldn't be any food. So therefore there'd be fast days to pray for rain. And there would be what's known as Monday, Thursday, Monday. So you would do groups of 3 fasts of Monday, Thursday, Monday, and then you would wait a week and then do another Monday, Thursday, Monday, and they would do that. And if after 3 times of doing that it still didn't work, they would have what would be 7 fasts of Monday, Thursday, Monday, Thursday, Monday, Thursday, all in a row. And this way was to pray for rain. By the time it got to the time it got to Pesach, if there was no rain by then, they would stop praying, because if you rain at that time would not be a positive thing. It would not come out as a something positive, because rain coming at the wrong time would be considered a negative thing. Now, one time there was a story about the Jewish people were there was a guy who didn't know the prayers. So every month he would come to his rabbi and he would say, "Can you give me the schedule for this month, all the prayers?" So the rabbi would give him a full schedule. This is the order of the prayers on this day. This is the order of the prayers on this day. And he would do all the different prayers based on the order, and he would have the full month in advance where he would have the prayers. So he comes to synagogue on one Monday, and he sees them saying the extra prayers for the fast day, and he's trying to understand. Rabbi, you didn't tell me this at the beginning. You didn't tell me about that we're going to be doing these prayers, and I'm completely lost in the prayers. The rabbi said, well, when you came to me, it wasn't we hadn't set in place this fast yet, because it hasn't been raining, and therefore we've placed a community fast because it is raining. So the guy says, I don't understand. Why do you need to fast for rain? So the rabbi says, what do you do when it is? He says, well, what I do is I go up on the roof and I call out to God and I say, God, give the people rain. So the rabbi says, if that's what you do, then go do that. So he and his wife, they go up onto the roof and he says, God, look, because it hasn't rained, all the people aren't eating, there's no food, and all the children are going to be crying, there's no food, send the rain. And it started to rain. So this is, you see that the prayer even of the most simple person can have a great effect, that this simple Jew was able to accomplish that which others did not accomplish. 1 year and about 2,000 years ago, there was a person named Choni HaMagel, who was famous for his prayers being answered. And one time it hadn't rained in a long time, and they said to Choni HaMagel, we need rain. Please pray for the rain. So Choni HaMagel went outside. He drew a circle. He drew a circle around himself, and he said, God, I'm not leaving this circle until it starts to rain. So it started to drizzle. And Choni HaMagel said, no, I need a proper rain. So it started to come down really, really hard. Choni said, no, I'm sorry, I need it to be a regular rain that's going to fill up the wells. Anyways, it started raining, and it rained for 3 days straight. And the people came to Choni HaMagel and they said, please stop the rain. And Choni HaMagel said, a blessing is something that I cannot stop. I'm not able to stop a blessing. If the rain is a blessing, we got a rain of blessing, and I cannot pray for it to stop. Obviously, it did stop eventually. I don't know exactly how long, but this is the story of Choni HaMagel. So we see from all these cases, from all these stories, the idea of the importance of praying for rain, the importance of needing rain, that it's very, very much in tied with our calendar and with the fast days that the Jewish people have. Now, there's one more interesting thing that I thought to bring up about the rain. The Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, on the holiest day of the year, the Kohen Gadol would do certain prayers. And in his prayers, he would say, God, listen to every single person's prayer, except for the prayers of the travelers. Why should we not accept the prayers of the travelers? Did the travelers do something wrong that we shouldn't accept their prayers? And the answer the Talmud gives on this, and the Talmud explains that they pray for rain. They pray that it shouldn't rain. But it's something that everybody needs. You know, there's the inconvenience that rain brings, that, you know, you wanted to go have an outing and you're not able to have an outing. You wanted to be able to do certain things and you're not able to do them. That inconvenience, we don't want those sort of prayers to be accepted. We don't want that those sort of prayers should be accepted, because there is a necessity, there is a need for the rain, there is a need for water. Water is the manner of how we survive, that is how we are able to do, and therefore rain in general is a blessing. Rain is something that always comes in a manner of blessing. Obviously, there are times where it could be too much blessing, you cannot be contained, and therefore you do have the concept of flooding and that sort of thing. But we have to always realize and always remember that rain is something that gives us blessing in every aspect. And so even till today, when the Chazan repeats the prayers of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, he mentions that we shouldn't that the prayer of travelers who pray for that it shouldn't rain, that should not be listened to by God. And also in the Kol Nidre, we also mention about the idea that the only promises that we don't want to be canceled out are the promises that we said that we were going to pray for rain, that we're going to fast for rain. Those sort of promises should not be removed, because those sort of promises need to remain because of the importance of rain, the importance of having water as it's one of the most important things that we need. And to the extent that every location has to be based on where the water is.